Hello and welcome to my latest match pod review for www.mufcglobal.co.uk. Manchester United 2, Reading 0 in the FA Cup third round. As always, we will kick off with team news. As expected, a number of changes from caretaker manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to the team. In goal was Sergio Romero. He plays in the cup games usually ahead of Big Dave. Back four of Dalot at right back and Young at left back. In centre backs were Phil Jones and Matteo Darmian. And obviously Bailly sent off against Bournemouth last week meant he was saving the second match of a three-match suspension. Lindelof had played all four games in the Christmas New Year fixtures, so he was given a rest. He was on the bench, and Darmian came in. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had mentioned that Darmian can play centre back. A midfield three of McTominay, Pereira and Fred. And up front was Mata, Lukaku and Sanchez. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer previously mentioned in his press conference that Lukaku and Sanchez were going to start today's game. So, an FA Cup match, a home match against a struggling Championship side. You would think a foregone conclusion possibly, but it doesn't always work that way, and it didn't today. I mean, the start of the game, it were obviously 9 changes to the team, and when you do make that number of changes, then there are always, the new players that have come in do take time to settle to work as a team, even though they have been working on stuff. I mean, they only played on Wednesday, so there wasn't loads of time to work on stuff, but they had been working together and would have known the team, and obviously the tactics was nominally in a 4-3-3 to start with. But Reading were the better side. They were the better side for the first 20 minutes. There's no doubt about it. Their approach rate was very good. They caused United problems. Obviously, a makeshift defence in regards of the centre-back pairing. I mean, for me, it made more sense because Lindelof played the 4 matches and Jones didn't play against Bournemouth to play Jones today. But obviously, Darmian came in and didn't do that bad a job. But you could see that you wouldn't want him as your number one centre half. He is a full-back, and you could tell by the way he played that he was a fullback, although he did get some good interceptions and headers and clearances in there. Phil Jones was actually pretty vocal for a change through the game, maybe obviously try to work his new centre-back partner into the game so that things were going as they wanted to. So Reading were very good to begin with, but they had no cutting edge really. They had opportunities sort of in the final third, but just couldn't create too much. I'll mention a couple of chances that they did have through the game. What happened after the first 20 minutes is United, they gradually took control of the first half and started to create more opportunities. Alexis Sanchez on the left was creating some chances. He had a good shot that was just over, but just after the halfway point of the half, a nice little bit of interplay, little chip in from Alexis Sanchez from the left. Fred took it on, lovely little touch onto Mata. Mata touched it through back to Fred, but Fred was actually offside. The ball was put into the back of the net and the linesman's flag was up. But Mata had actually been fouled, so he did actually go to VAR, and it did end up as a penalty for Manchester United. Now, I was at the game today, and I was chatting to my friend. I mean, I'm a VAR advocate. I think you need to get key decisions correct. It did take some time, apparently 2 minutes 15 seconds. I heard after the game, a friend isn't overly enamoured, saying that it's just taken too much time, and I couldn't disagree with him in there. But ultimately the decision was correct in the end because Fred did put it in the net, but he was offside. So you go back to the penalty, which was a foul, and Manchester got their penalty. Wan-Mata steps up, bang into the back of the net. And for the last 20 minutes of that first half, or the last half of the first half, United were essentially in control of the game. There were still opportunities for Reading. They were making good ground, and they had a really good opportunity when a youngster up front called Loader had an opportunity. Went round the keeper. He could have shot before he got round the keeper, but he took it too far wide, and the keeper got back. But Reading, as you say, they were causing problems. But United seemed to be playing on the handbrake. I mean, one concern of mine was that they were allowing Reading to play. They weren't getting into them. They were giving them opportunities to get the ball in turn, and obviously putting United on the back foot. So as half time came, there was 5 minutes added on at half time because of the VAR situation. So obviously that's quite a long time for the first half. But I mean, for me, they should just stop the clock at VAR. There should be issues. They should be looking at the timekeeper when it comes to VAR. It shouldn't be looked at as added on time for me. You should just stop the clock till it's dealt with, obviously as quick as possible. And in that added on time period, Manchester United took a further lead with some nice play again. Sanchez on the left hand side, a lovely little pass through, great run from Lukaku, took it around the keeper, slotted it into the back of the empty net. So United 2-0 up at half time, which did flatter them, because I think maybe they were the better side possibly. I mean, it was even Stevens, 1-0 slightly flattered them, 2-0 definitely flattered them. But a lead, a comfortable lead at half time, which obviously I'm sure the Gunnar Solskjaer would have been very happy about, but there would have been a few words in the dressing room at half time. So on to the second half, and one thing that was visibly noticeable watching was that the players were, especially more Ashley Young as a captain, were getting into the Reading players much more. Were stopping, not allowing them to settle onto the ball for the first 10-15 minutes of that second half. United were sort of controlling the game. I mean, as you can when you're 2-0 up. To be fair, United in the final third in the second half weren't brilliant. Reading, again, they had opportunities and they played some really nice football, but in that final third, they struggled. I mean, they had one opportunity, a lovely little through ball from, I think it was Sonny Aluko coming at half time, through to one of his colleagues. I can't remember exactly who it was, but he had an opportunity in his shot, but it was actually a great save. It was sort of essentially straight at Romero, but you still have to make those saves, and it was an opportunity for Reading. I think it possibly may have been offsides, possibly I might have disallowed it. But, Reading, they just didn't have any of that cutting edge. As I say, they had a few shots. I mean, United, they were they didn't seem to be doing very much going forward, and by that I mean they were going sort of towards the goal, but they weren't creating too much. There were a few question marks again about Lukaku's hold-up play and control, something he has to work on. I would say it was an argument, but a friend of mine, we were discussing Harry Kane and Romelu Lukaku and how they are fair to be compared. Harry Kane is head and shoulders above Lukaku at the moment. But the one thing about Lukaku, who scores goals, he's got 3 and 3. But if he can work on his hold-up play and his play outside of the box, so that he's contributing when he's not scoring goals, then he will get much more of opportunities within, as a possible starting number 9, because at the moment he is a backup number 9. 2 of his goals have coming on as substitutes in the game. So Solskjaer did make some changes. Fellaini and Chong came on for Fred and Mata respectively. I mean, Chong coming on, who's a young player, Talith Chong, he came on and he got the biggest round of applause of the day. And it was good to see. The one thing I noticed about him, he doesn't mind running with that ball and essentially anywhere on the pitch. He was normally playing on the right, and I'm still not sure. I think he's left-footed, but he could play with his right. So obviously a lot more good youngsters come. I mean, Sanchez had a recovery of his hamstring injury. It was a bit of a silly period where he went down, the ball was kicked out, then play started, but he needed to be substituted, and the ball was kicked out again. It was a bit of a strange one. And Rashford came on for the last 25 minutes, so the 3 subs were made within 2 minutes. But again, United, they just kept control of the match. They had, as I say, a couple of opportunities within the box, but it was like they were playing with the handbrake on during this game, and it was good to give a run out to players who had not been played recently. Obviously, Lukaku, Sanchez got in 60 minutes, but so he's a doubt now for the Tottenham game. But players like Dalot, who had a decent game. Young showed in the second half he was much better. Odd mistakes which you'll need to work on. It's not the kind of mistakes you can make against better teams. Darmian did okay. So he was caught out on a few occasions, but he's not a centre back. I mean, McTominay, who seemed to be playing as attacking midfield in the first half, then moved more to a more sensible position as a defensive one in the second half in the 3 with Pereira and Fred. I mean, Pereira and Fred didn't really take their opportunities, to be fair. I mean, Pereira was particularly disappointing. I mean, the rumours that he might be leaving in January or in the summer. So maybe that is it. But, I mean, the difficulty is when you make all those changes, this is what's tricky, is that it's hard. You've not had as many opportunities or game time, so it's difficult when a lot of players haven't had a lot of game time to get any fluency. Maybe we will see better from those other players who played today when they come in as maybe 1 of 2 or 3 changes within a game. all in all, a satisfactory performance. Obviously, nothing like what we've seen, but sometimes you have those kinds of performances. I did mention to my friend that obviously for Reading, they had nothing to lose. If they come here and lost 5-6-0, that's just how it is. That's probably what some people may have expected, bearing in mind Manchester United's form. But they played some nice fantasy football. I mean, the thing I did also mention is maybe in the Championship, the type of football they play doesn't work because it is a much more harem-scarum league, and they were playing some nice on-the-ball football, but just had no cutting edge in the final third. So for Manchester United, I think what it did tell us was that obviously the 4 wins out of 4 in the Premier League are important, but there's still a long way to go. I mean, for me personally, I think there need to be some changes, or some additions, I should say, in January. And by some additions, I mean mainly a centre back. Definitely. I mean, if he's going to play, he has got the youngsters that can come in. Gomez, Chong, Garner was on the bench again today, and Greenwood, he didn't make the squad, but he's obviously doing well. But centre forward is not necessarily a position that United have a problem with numbers. So maybe it's a case of sticking those players in. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is just a caretaker manager, so buying new players for maybe a manager that's not going to be there in the summer now is a tricky one. But I still think a talkative centre-back or somebody at centre-back is needed, because United still have opportunities this season. Obviously, can't win the league, which is a shame. I keep mentioning this, but top 4's the target. They're in the Champions League, and obviously you've got the FA Cup, so they need to look like, yes, PSG is a hard game, but we're better defenders, and they've shown attacking wise they can cause trouble to anybody. In PSG, if they do have their strong point is up front, their weaknesses are at the back. Our strong points are up front, and but Manchester United's weaknesses are at the back, and obviously Neymar, Cavani, and Mbappe are a front three that you wouldn't want to have issues with your defence in. So obviously those questions need to be asked. But they have got injuries in defence with Bailly, obviously. Well, he's suspended. Rowe and Smalling injured, so maybe there could be improvement there. But we've had these questions all season with these players, so it may be a case of as we stand. Well, it is going to be sucking to see, because Edward ain't going to be spending any. He didn't want to spend any money in the summer when we needed a centre back. Why is he going to spend money now? When the manager's not set yet. So job done today. Through to the 4th round of the FA Cup, the draw. I'm assuming it's going to be on Monday, the draw. I'm not sure myself, but I'm assuming it's going to be on Monday, the 4th round draw. And on to back to the Premier League next week. It's Spurs at Wembley. A game that United have a match in the week, so they're going off to Dubai. They're going to do some fitness assessing for the players to make sure that and check who is ready to play in that game. Obviously, Sanchez is a doubt. But that will be an acid test to start with, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's 5 out of 5. I think first time in history a Manchester United manager won his first 5 games. In any competitions, then he's got an opportunity to be the first Manchester United manager to win his first 5 league games on Sunday against Spurs, which will, as I say, will be a proper test. Obviously, players will be coming back, but the game against Brendan needs to. I mean, you just hope that was because maybe the opposition was a bit underwhelming, but they need to make sure that they're on their game. You can't always put it on, every single match, so that's understandable. But I think we'll see against Spurs exactly where this so-called new Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer are. So, as always, there is plenty of content up at www.mufcglobal.co.uk to check out, as well as my pods. They're also on podcast providers such as Podbean, Player FM, and Buzzsprout. My pods are all up on there. And also on YouTube. As I say, we're working on getting some pods up on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and stick in MUFC Global on your search, you will get podcasts, hopefully. So I think there's definitely one up there. We're trying to get some others up there. So if you have a look out for that and have a search for that, and obviously subscribe, and then you'll pick up all the pods up there. So thanks for listening. On and upward for Manchester United. The plan, as I've mentioned before, they have to just keep on winning because they're so far behind. Okay, thanks for listening, and I will speak to you next week after the Tottenham game. Thank you. Bye.